Well, we have had a wonderful time in eastern South Dakota here with our friends, and now we are going to head West River. So what they told us is South Dakota is split down the middle by the Missouri River, and they call it East River and West River. And the difference is that East River is pretty conservative, and then West River is very, very conservative. So that kind of sums up South Dakota in a nutshell. But we're going to head west today. We're going to stop at Wall Drug on our way over there because that's a staple and you have to do it. And then we're going to explore the Badlands and the Black Hills, and we're also going to get our South Dakota driver's licenses renewed over there, and we'll talk more about that when we get there. So let's head over to West River. Pulling over on I-90 to switch drivers, and on the way we're stopping to see the Dignity of Earth and Sky statue. This was recommended to us by our friends, and it's at a regular rest stop, but the statue is beautiful and there's a scenic overlook here, so it's a good place to just stop and hit the bathroom and switch drivers, get a little snack. So behind the statue, there's a little walkway to a nice overlook of the Missouri River. This is the Missouri that splits the state in half between the East River and West River. So we're about to cross over the Missouri and keep going west. So Wall Drug is a tourist fixture here in western South Dakota. For hundreds of miles since we've been driving from Sioux Falls, there's been billboards all along the way advertising Wall Drug, and it's a well-known tourist spot here. It was started in 1931, and they've got all kinds of stuff in here. It actually looks like a little old western town street in there. Free parking for RVs, but we got almost the whole lot to ourselves. So what our friends told us was in 1931, when they opened this place, it was just a small little like convenience store something. But then the Depression happened, and so they almost went under. But they started advertising free ice water. Now, of course, all gas stations would give you free water, but this was one of the first places that advertised that you could get free water here. So it became a stopping place for people who were traveling across South Dakota and made it really famous. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Looks like a lot of things here are still sort of closed for the season. We are in mid-April right now, so they must not fully open maybe until the summer. Well, it's a fun diversion. We didn't buy anything. And it's kind of empty in there. I bet it's got a lot more energy in the summertime. So we're going to keep going to Box Elder, South Dakota, because if you didn't know, that is our hometown. Our legal domicile address is at America's Mailbox Mail Forwarding Service. We have a personal mailbox, or a PMB, and that serves as a legal address. Now, if you are new to the whole domicile idea, every person who lives in the United States has to have a legal address so that the government can send you mail and the IRS and all those kind of things. So what RV travelers do is there are 3 main states that are friendly to RVers for this purpose: South Dakota, Florida, and Texas. Well, you know that we own land in Florida now, so some people have asked us, why aren't you residents of Florida? Well, 5 years ago when we started RVing, we went to a seminar at, I think, the Hershey RV show, and America's Mailbox was doing a presentation there, and they said that the costs in South Dakota are lower than either Florida or Texas. The insurance is lower, there's no state income tax, which there isn't in any of the 3 states, but just overall the cost of living in South Dakota is cheaper than Florida, and most importantly, the only residency requirement they have is that you stay in the state for 1 night before you can get your driver's license, which makes you, that doesn't make you a resident, but if you have the personal mailbox, then you can get your driver's license because you have a local address. And you only have to stay in the state for 1 night in order to do that. And then every 5 years, you have to renew your driver's license. There was some confusion about whether we had to come here in person or not, because South Dakota, in the past few years, made a rule that you could renew your driver's license online for every other 5-year cycle. So you had to come back once every 10 years. So you had to come back to the state once every 10 years, but every 5th year or on the off years, you could renew online. So I'm going about my business last year. Our licenses expired mine expired last November 2024. So last summer, we were like, yeah, we'll just do it online. And so I went to do the online process, and it said, when you apply for your renewal online, you have to upload the receipt showing that you have stayed a night in South Dakota. I was like, what does that mean? I thought I didn't have to stay a night in South Dakota. I thought I could just do this online. Well, you can. You can renew your license online, but you still have to stay a night in the state. Man, were we scrambling. I was like, do we have to get on a plane to South Dakota right now? Do we have to fly up there and renew our licenses? What are we going to do? So I called South Dakota DMV, and I said, I heard that we could get a 1-year grace period for, you can renew your license anytime in the 4th to 6th year. Like, they're trying to give you a year on either side. And the lady I was talking to said, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have any kind of grace period. I don't, I've never heard of that. So I was like, well, we're not in South Dakota. What should we do? And she said, well, I can give you a paper license extension. And I said, how long is the extension good for? She said a year. I was like, isn't that a year extension? Okay. So semantics, whatever. She on the spot emailed us both temporary licenses that were good for 1 year. So we've been carrying around these little paper licenses in our wallets since then. And now we are back in South Dakota because we've got 2 more months before those licenses are up. We did it in June, and so now they're expiring in June. So that's why we're here in South Dakota, to stay overnight at the America's Mailbox Campground. And then we get our receipt. We can go to the DMV. We got a DMV appointment early tomorrow morning. And I've got all my paperwork and everything ready to go. So we're going to head over there. Now, there's lots of lovely campgrounds and state parks and everything to stay at here in western South Dakota. But because we are residents at America's Mailbox, and that's right near the DMV where we need to be, we're choosing to stay at the America's Mailbox Campground, which is right behind the mail facility. And we're going to stay there for three nights. So we'll spend the next 2 days in western South Dakota exploring everything in the national parks and the driving loops and whatever. But tomorrow morning, the first thing we got to do is renew our driver's licenses. And I also forgot to say that because we have those paper temporary licenses now, it kicked us out of being able to renew online anyway. So even though we had to come to South Dakota and stay overnight, regardless, if we were within the correct time frame, we could have then renewed it online after we stayed overnight. And the staying overnight requirement is also like a year. Anytime a year before your license expires, you can stay overnight and get a receipt. So if your license expires in June, but you were coming through here last November, you can stay overnight at a campground, get the receipt, and then use that as your renewal receipt. Now, we were at Mike and Julie's for the past week, and we could have renewed our licenses over in Sioux Falls. It doesn't matter what town you do it in. But when I called the DMV and I said, we're going to be staying at our friends with our RV, but we won't have a receipt from them. You know, how can we prove that we've stayed in the state? She said, you need to go to a hotel and get a receipt. She said, friends don't cut it. It's got to be a retail location, a campground, a motel, a hotel where you can get a physical receipt. So she said, go stay there for a night if that's what you want to do. So for that reason, we just said, we'll wait until we get out to America's Mailbox Campground. We're going to stay there anyway. So I don't know. Don't take my word for it. If you're a South Dakota resident trying to renew your driver's license, make sure you get on their website and read the fine print and read it very carefully, and call if you have to, because it's a very confusing process. But I expect that in another 5 years from now, when we need to renew again, we will probably be Florida residents by that time. Since we own property down there now, it's kind of a no-brainer. We weren't ready to do it this year, and because of some big hurricanes in Florida last year, the insurance rates have just skyrocketed. Property insurance, vehicle insurance, I mean, everybody's complaining about it down there. So we thought, for right now, we'll just stay with South Dakota. We got 5 years to decide what we want to do. So we pulled into the America's Mailbox Campground. This is the mail facility here, and then the campground is directly behind. And I'll have to come back when the mail office is open tomorrow to actually get our mail. I have mail here that I want to pick up. Usually I would send it on to whatever campground we're at, but since we're here, we can pick it up. That's kind of fun. So when we checked in, the woman said the water is off right now. There was some problem with it today, or they were testing something, and they said we expect it to be back on tomorrow. But I said, well, we better fill our tank right now. So we've got our hose going over to the building there. She said we could fill our freshwater tank. Because who knows if it'll be on tomorrow. Sometimes campgrounds say it will, and then it's not, and then there's another problem. So let's just fill up our fresh tank. But we are right off of I-90 here that we took all the way across South Dakota. So this is kind of it's just an industrial location. But the campground is full. We're surprised that there's so many people here in mid-April. Like, I don't know if they're all here doing the same kind of license renewal thing that we're doing or what. Interesting. We're at the DMV getting our driver's license renewals. Easy peasy, 25 minutes for both of us. Yeah, we did make an appointment online. You can just walk in and wait, but that got us through a lot faster because we made an appointment. We're legal South Dakota residents for the next 5 years. So now we're going to head over to the America's Mailbox Mail Center so I can pick up my mail. Since I'm here, I can pick it up physically. And then we are going to head over to the Badlands. Now, it is very, very windy today. I suspect that April is not South Dakota's best foot forward. It's very brown, it's spring, it's very windy and cold. But like I told my friend the other day, we don't have the luxury of going to national parks in the peak months, because whenever we are in that area, that's when we're going to the national park. We had to be in South Dakota in April this year, and Badlands is near here, so this is when we're going.
Okay, so
That's nice.
It's still warm from this morning.
Yeah.
right on the HC. There's your mail, and you guys checked in last time, right?
Yeah. Well, that was really nice. I did not expect it to be so cozy in there. I thought it would be like a post office or just an industrial desk or something. But they've got a little welcome home sign there. They've got a little cookie bar and coffee, and that was a really nice experience.
Yeah, pleasant, helpful people there that were at the front desk.
Fun. All right, let's head to the Badlands. That was just a little taste of the Badlands. We just went through a little corner of it. We're trying to get over to the visitor center first. And this road is gonna go along the top of a big Indian reservation. So we're gonna go through some, I don't think we're gonna go on the reservation, but we might go through some little towns before we get to the visitor center. interior. What does it say? I was born of Wagons West, the oldest town in the Badlands. I've known drought and winter's fierce storms. 3 times fire has swept my streets, yet my rodeos were known throughout the West. The great Jim Thorpe has played on my fields. The early music of Lawrence Welk has sounded in my nights. This land that bred great Indian chiefs and mighty warriors now is a land of neighbors. So normally we like to use our America the Beautiful Pass to get into national parks, but we don't have one currently. And we tried to look at our schedule over the next year to see, was it worth buying one today to get into the Badlands? Well, we don't have any plans to go to any other national parks this year until maybe next winter when we get back to Florida. We might go to the Everglades. But if you amortize, it's $80 for the pass, and that includes both of us. But you'd have to go to maybe 3 national parks in a year to make that worth it. So if we're only doing one right now, and the entrance fee here is $30, that does get you in for 7 days. The standard pass here is automatically 7 days. We're only going to be here for 1 day, but $30 for that is a good deal, and we wanted to save a little bit of money, so we're going to wait maybe until next year to get the America the Beautiful Pass again. Now we're arriving at the Visitors Center. We're going to do a quick look in here, and then we'll drive the Badlands Loop Road. So Badlands National Park, I'm just looking at the map here, is split into 2 sections. There's a northern area which contains the Loop Road and is kind of the main tourist area. And then south of here is the Stronghold Unit and the Palmer Creek Unit, but those are within the Indian Reservation, and it doesn't look like there are really roads or hikes in there or anything. I don't know if you can even get in there. I guess there's some overlooks down there, but we're gonna just stay in the northern part and do the Loop Road right now. So just outside of Badlands National Park, only about a half a mile north of the Pinnacle's north entrance, is free boondocking, dispersed camping right along the Badlands. It's called Nomad View Dispersed Camping. And first come, first serve. We could have got our fifth wheel out here. It's just a little short, bumpy dirt road to get out here. But you can park anywhere along the stretch here and put your RV right along the Badlands. That's so cool. You might have seen it on YouTube if you follow any kind of YouTube RVers. Plenty of people have stayed here. We never like to chance going to some kind of free boondocking spot because we never know if our big rig is going to fit in there. And we were already booked at America's Mailbox anyway. But now seeing it and being here, and in the off season, there's plenty of space here. If we ever came back here on the shoulder season, I would definitely try it. But don't park too close to the edge. We've heard rumors and legends that trailers may have been blown off by the wind into the canyon. We don't know all the facts. That's just what we heard. Well, we just had time in this video to do the Badlands and get our driver's licenses renewed, but I've got so much footage of the Black Hills that I'm going to save that for next week. So come back next week for one more video in South Dakota, and then after that, we're going to start heading north to Canada. Until then, I hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye, guys.